agenda today. So first we'll receive a CAEP Office update from Dr. Carolyn Zachary, and then we'll move on into the regional network meeting. And how this works is we are kind of handling two components. We are giving information. So we found via feedback from our last regional network meeting that part of the meeting you all wanted information given to you, but then you also wanted enough time to be able to engage with one another. So we're trying to do both. And so for each of our partner agencies, which includes CASAS, WestEd, OTAN, and CAEP TAP, we will do a brief presentation. And then after our brief presentation, we'll engage in discussion based on the topic that was most important to you. So prior to the start of the regional network meeting, we sent out a poll. We called it a topics poll, and it was to identify the topics of importance for you right now. And so based on those that ranked high, including the subtopics, those our presentations are based on those topics. So, but we're open to discussion about anything, but the presentations will be based on those topics. So that's kind of the flow. So it'll be a brief presentation provided to you and then time to engage with one another. So hopefully that works. We are still trying to find a great balance, but this is where we are at this particular time. So we hope that everyone finds, you know, a little nugget of information that you may have not been aware of that you can take back to your agency. So I will now turn it over to Dr. Carolyn Zachary, who will get us started with the CAEP Office update.
Great, thank you very much, Veronica. I appreciate that. So if you want to go on to the next slide. Thank you. So I do want to share with you that the CAEP office, as well as the Adult Ed office, has been working with a group of individuals from the field to develop a student technology intake survey. This survey is probably similar to something that many of your agencies might have done in the spring as we moved from in-person to remote learning with your students. But what we've done is we want to have common language and common questions so that we can take that data statewide and look at it in a statewide data format, but then we can also disaggregate it and look at it in various regions. We can use this data for multiple purposes. At the local level, it is certainly will be useful for all of you to know how your students have connectivity or don't have connectivity, and whether and how they connect to remote learning. On a regional basis, the idea of this survey could be used to inform your local legislators on some challenges that your adult students might be having. It can also be used to work with local broadband companies to find ways to help more students connect. And on a statewide basis, we want to be able to use this to inform the superintendent, who has a task force, as well as the community college chancellor. And then we also would like to share this information with the Department of Adult Education and Literacy at the U.S. Department of Education, to share with them what it looks like in California when we're talking about technology. The survey is just about ready to go based on a question from Monday's Welcome Back. We've added another question in there about limitations on technology, such as how many like you have a limit of 5 gigabytes or something per month. So we've added that question in as well, and it should be ready to go early next week. Information will be posted in the CAEP weekly newsletter, as well as information coming out from my office through an OTAN email. It will be a separate web page or separate tab on the Cal Adult Ed web page. And when you go to that, it can be used by students to complete the survey, because this is really that student survey. It can be used for, as you're enrolling new students into your programs, have them take that survey. It can also be printed out so that for those students or those programs that have connection issues in their areas, you could have a printed survey and then have someone go in and put the information in. And lastly, for your continuing students, you can have teachers use this as part of their in their class and send students to the survey to take the survey. Again, we're hoping to really get good responses from this so that we can get a good assessment of what technology accessibility looks like in California for our adult education students. The second survey that we're working on, that again, this is almost ready to be released as well, is our administrator reopening plan survey. This is for administrators. Again, the link will be posted in the CAEP newsletter and through an email. This is very similar to the survey that we sent out to all of you last spring, asking what it was going to look like in the coming year or the coming months. So we're asking what it's going to look like here as you're going into this new school year. How are you going to be delivering instruction? We will probably do this twice this year, depending on what we hear from individuals who are moving back to some in-person learning. So just to give us a good sense of what it's looking like in our field, again, so that we can share this information with the superintendent and the chancellor, as well as OCTE in the Department of Adult Education and Division of Adult Education and Literacy. On Monday, we had a welcome back video at 3 o'clock. And with that video, it was recorded. I don't know that it's quite ready yet to be posted. They will be working on ensuring that it's closed caption or that the text is there. It was a brief 10-minute video. And I would encourage those of you that would like to use it, you can use this to welcome back your staff as part of a welcome back piece, similar to last year's video. Again, it's really focused for all adult education staff and can be used however you want. You can send the link out once it's available to staff and have them watch it. Gives them an update on adult education. Also thanks everyone for their hard work as we shifted from in-person to online learning and really that focus back on students. And then tomorrow will be our final in a 3-part series, Spotlight on California with Burlington English, and how we pivoted and shifted to help students continue to learn during COVID. Tomorrow we'll be hearing from Tammy Olson in Visalia and Steve Thompson in Ventura, about what they did and how they really pivoted to online instruction. And I think that's all I have. So with that, I believe I'm turning this over to either Veronica or Jay.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
Okay, so I guess we'll just go next slide, please. So I'll just go ahead and get started here. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So starting with our portion, we've been starting our portion with the different OCTE memos in terms of getting restarted for the new year. We had 3 federal memos in the spring, the most recent of which was May 29th. Turning back the clock before COVID-19, there was no remote testing allowed. All testing had to be done with an in-person proctor present. So these memos basically allowed remote testing, left it up to the states to decide what their own policy was. California, like I said, basically checked the box that said, yes, we're all in, we're doing remote testing. And so we did have an egg and haven't looked back. The most recent OCTE memo at the end of May gave a little bit of a wrinkle and then allowed for self-reported placement. To get a measurable skill gain, you still need a pre-test and a post-test like always, but you can
Jay?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, I sent you a message, but your audio is a little choppy right now.
Okay, can you hear me any better now? I'm not sure why.
Yes, it is sounding better now.
Okay. All right, well, anyway, so you can get placement without a pre-test. So we've had a lot of discussions about this all over. A lot of you are planning on doing remote testing or planning on doing site testing if and when you're able to have students back on site, but getting everybody moving forward with enrollment has been difficult. You probably can't get everybody tested before you need to place students in class and so on. So the feds understand that and say, you don't need the pre-test in place for federal reporting. You can use self-reported placement to get them on the map for federal reporting. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just a basic information on remote testing. Here's a link to our CASAS remote testing page. Again, there are some webinars that Carolyn and some CASAS staff did in late April or May that kicked off remote testing. So we're doing remote testing for free post. We're doing remote testing for COAAPS and citizenship, and we're doing EL civics. So if you want the details, you can go to this link. The steps on this slide are from the CDE memo where CDE has said, yes, we're definitely doing remote testing. We're now allowing it provided the agency is able to meet these specific conditions. Next slide. Okay, we'll relate this a little bit to the local assessment policy. Some of this is a little bit regularly scheduled programming. That is, every year at this time, we talk about the need to update your local assessment policy. This year, we think it's probably a little bit more important than usual because we have all these other issues going on with distance learning and remote testing and so on. So we've been talking a lot about Appendix C, which is kind of the portion of the statewide and local assessment policy that people really didn't know much about until the last few months. But it's the component of the statewide and local policy that has information about distance learning. It gives you the definition of distance learning. It's where you can put what sorts of instructional curricula you're using for distance learning programs. How are you recording instructional hours? What types of strategies are you doing for remote testing? So all of that has been thoroughly updated this year for all the obvious reasons. Next slide. Okay, so actually I'll leave it on this slide, but I'll just say we've been talking about remote testing and local assessment policy together because technically that remote testing agreement is part of your local assessment policy. So some people have been a little bit annoyed that you've had to do it twice. That is, we had those initial webinars in early May. A lot of you did that CASAS remote testing agreement then to get started, but now you have to redo it all over again. The reason is technically that remote testing agreement is part of your local assessment policy. So the remote testing agreement, like the local assessment policy, needs to be updated at the beginning of the program year. So a lot of you might have done that agreement in May. That covered you for the remainder of the 2019-20 year. Now you should do it again to cover yourself for the 2020-2021 year. That's the same, online little agreement you do on our CASAS website. So lots of it getting going with remote testing. Here are some benefits. The most obvious of which is you still need pre and post testing for federal reporting. Again, that federal memo does relieve you a little bit of doing that pre-test right away and using it for placement, but it doesn't necessarily relieve every one of the pre and post testing requirements overall. To achieve a measurable skill gain, the feds kind of go way out of their way to say a pre-test and a post-test is still required. And we also feel like remote testing is going to be here to stay. Is it what you're going to be using for all students? Absolutely not. But we do see it as something useful that everybody will kind of have in their holster for the long term to serve specific students that may not be able to go into the program site and so on. Next slide. We've also had challenges. A lot of you didn't really know whether you were opening or not until a few weeks ago. That equity issue has been discussed over and over again. Students can't afford computers. They don't have their own computer, or maybe they do, but they need to have their kids use it to, respond to K-12 assignments and things like that. Maybe their test environment is not particularly conducive to testing, with budget cuts and so on. We know there's been a lot of issues with that also. So I'll just say we've been working a lot on improving the ratio. Right now, the remote testing ratios are either 1 to 1 to 1 to 5. We're definitely working on improving those ratios. Next slide. Here's some information about remote testing. Again, we've given that link to our CASAS remote testing page on a few different slides here. These give you more specific links to the YouTube videos. That first one gives you a thorough overview of what remote testing is about. Some people watch it and fall in love with it. Others maybe not so much, but no matter where you fall on that spectrum, you can watch this video and you should definitely be really clear on exactly how the process works from a staff and student point of view, exactly what steps you need to follow in order to get into remote testing. It goes through it step by step and gives a really good representation of what you're getting yourselves into. We have another YouTube on how to register test stations on our remote testing page. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of PowerPoints, guidance documents, and so on, providing lots of instructions on how to get involved with remote testing. Next slide. Okay, we also have remote testing for EL Civics, like I mentioned, the same remote testing page to find out about that. You know, again, some additional guidelines and recordings that provide more information on how to do citizenship interview and how to do additional assessments. Next slide. Okay, we've had a lot of brainstorming as well. A lot of you have heard about that parking lot testing. We just had a robust discussion about it in the Burlington session earlier today. The link you can see from Novi or NOVI is an agency in Michigan that's done parking lot testing. I know a lot of you in California have done parking lot testing as well. Bottom line is, though, this agency in Michigan did a video of itself, so we have that posted on our website as an example of how you might do parking lot testing. We've also had some hybrid models come up with staff on site, you know, at the lab, and students at home doing the testing remotely. Some of you have looked at on-site testing following all social distancing measures and so on. You know, we've again been working on the remote testing options to improve the ratio as well. So I'll just say lots of brainstorming going on. Hopefully here over the next month or so, we'll have some panel discussions and additional webinars that cover some of the things that different folks have been brainstorming on this topic. Next slide. This is just a table covering all the options we have available presently. Next slide. Okay, reading level indicator. This was just released in TE a week ago. Reading level indicator, or RLI. This is an informal assessment now available for placement. So I'll tie this into that federal memo 20-5 I mentioned at the beginning. That is, you still need a pre and post test to report gains, but you can get the person to qualify for federal reporting with an informal placement assessment. So that's what the RLI is intended to do. If you're already on eTests and TE, which of course you are, no cost, should be no muss, no fuss. The two big advantages are there at the top. The student can complete the RLI on their cell phone and no proctor is required. To be clear, it's not a pre or post, it just gives you that estimated NRS level. But again, this is a good tool to use to get that informal placement for students so you can get the student in the correct level, correct class, and correct program upon enrollment. And again, we just released this in TE about a week ago. Next slide. Here's a little bit on how it works. I've been likening it to that employment and earnings survey. That is, you use that TE student portal to send out invitations to students. So this is just showing how you can go into TE, select the student or group of students that you want to complete this assessment, and then click that little button that sends the invitation out. Like that core performance survey, you can send invitations out via email, via text, or both. The student then receives that invitation on their cell phone. As soon as they click the link, they can immediately just start doing that RLI. Again, they can do it on their cell phone and they don't need to worry about a proctor. The student is on her own or his own to complete it independently. Once they finish the RLI and click that final click, it will get sent immediately into your TE installation. Again, it won't give you that test score, but it will give you that level placement for each student that completes it. Next slide. Okay, this is just showing you, this is how to send the invite. And then again, once all is said and done, you can review those results. in the TE test lister. Next slide. Okay, another new update in TE is the quarterly data submission wizard. This applies to WIOA 2 reporting and to CAEP reporting. Historically, the data has been automated, but the data integrity report has not. The quarterly data submission will allow you to automatically submit both using that same wizard. So it's been in TE for a few months now. We purposefully decided not to use it last year. We'll start using this with the first quarter data submission this year. That is for the data that's due on or before October 31st. We'll use the TE quarterly data submission wizard so you can get all of those requirements done in that same wizard. Next slide. Okay, one thing I wanted to go, before I get into these other updates, the other TE update I wanted to bring up that there's not a slide for is that proxy update. So a lot of you have mentioned it, so I will birdwalk a little bit and give you one more TE update, which is the proxy wizard. The proxy wizard is the feature in TE that allows you to carbon copy tests that were administered late in the program year and copy them over, get a date stamp in July 1 to serve as the pre-test in the new year. This has been around for many years. It's not new. Typically, though, the date range goes back as far as May 12th. That is, you could reach as far back as May 12th to copy those tests over for the new year. For this year, given all the obvious issues with COVID-19, you can go back to January 1. So somebody brought it up well at a meeting I did this morning, where basically if a student came in after the new year and tested after New Year's, but before you closed for COVID-19, that range there in January, February can now be copied to serve as the pre-test for this year. So if you're having trouble getting started on remote testing, or maybe it's been successful for you, but you just haven't reached everybody, you might want to consider proxying because it goes a lot farther back than usual. Moving back to the slide, we have new agencies in WIOA 2. This is just a screenshot of a new toolkit we put together. So if you're new to CASAS, this is a really good resource to find out at a basic level some of those CASAS resources. Next slide. We've also been doing studies with GD and HiSET. We're just about done with these, but these will prove that positive performance on CASAS equates to positive performance on the GD or HiSET. With our old test, this has already been long since complete, but with our new goals test, it hasn't. So we'll be putting this on the TE individual skills profile report. It's one of the most popular features, but it will use your students' CASAS results and provide a predictor or a percentage likelihood of passing each GED or HiSET subsection. Next slide. We've also updated our accommodations for learners with disabilities, in particular, accommodations for individuals with visual impairments. Here's the link to that CASAS accommodations page for that. Next slide. Another new update are our I3 reports. I3 stands for Immigrant Integration Indicators. These are some new reports, within the CAEP reports in TE. It's a little bit forgotten, but before we went into COVID-19 mode, there was that AB 2098 that basically mandated at the state level, not at the agency level, but at the state level, that we had to have some kind of metrics together to record outcomes for immigrant integration. So we've moved forward in TE with our I3 reports. The screenshot you can see, we've got a few reports at the individual class and agency level that relates results from EL Civic's COAAPS to immigrant integration indicators. So we've looked at COAAPS and aligned them to 8 different categories of immigrant integration. So what the reports do is look at the COAAPS results and relate the pass-fail results on the COAAPS to those 8 categories for immigrant integration, so you can get an overview of how well your students are making progress in these areas. I've been likening this to our competency reports, where you have those CASAS competency statements, and it relates those test results to those specific statements. These are similar, only it's using those COAAPS statements rather than competency statements and relating the results of the COAAPS rather than the pre and post tests. But again, it's doing the same thing where it's aligning those outcomes to those specific statements so you can get a basic idea of overall strengths and overall areas of need. The other change is we've added a new column in the TE CAEP summary called I3 outcomes that will be a new official CAEP outcome that you can track in the CAEP summary this year. And I think that's it for me. Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jay. And we will now go into Randy's presentation on what they have planned for this upcoming program year. And after Randy's presentation, we'll move into our discussion about agencies' reopening plans. So if you all can start thinking about how your agency has reopened or plans to reopen, and we'll engage in discussion around that topic. Thank you, Jay. And Randy?
Great. Thank you, Veronica. It's a pleasure to be with you all here today. Because we are very aware of the extreme interest that people have in online education and remote testing and things like that related to the situation with COVID, I'm trying to keep my presentation relatively brief. So I'm going to go through some of the work that's going to be happening related to the AE pipeline and with WestEd and professional development this year, kind of highlight a couple things, and then we will move on into other parts of the presentation. So first, I want to talk about the AE pipeline. We will be in build 4 this year. So basically, we're getting a little bit better every year. We're getting much, much happier with sort of the display of the metrics and the data validation work that we're doing with CASAS, kind of double checking the numbers and understanding where the numbers are different, actually why that is. But we have a number of things planned to improve the pipeline this year, not just related to the new build next spring. So first, we're going to be doing enhancements to the user interface and the resources. The resources are the things that you can use to do additional kind of research on what the metrics mean, how labor market information works, things like that. We're going to begin embedding resources into the structure of the pipeline itself, so that if you're looking at a particular metric or an infographic, you'll be able to roll over that and click on an icon to see a kind of a deeper explanation of kind of what the data is sort of telling you within that graphic, what the data sources are. You'll be able to look at the calculation from the metric definition dictionary if you want to get that wonky. But the idea is to help make the pipeline more self-guided. So you look at an infographic and you might be thinking, I don't know what this means. You'll be able to actually look immediately something and help you understand what the data is telling you and how that specific metric was calculated. Additionally, although there isn't a bullet point here related to this, we're developing a data extract feature that will be available in either end of September, beginning of October. So if you wanted to pull the metrics for the AE report card tab in the AE pipeline, you could actually pull an extract of that data for your entire consortium. So you'll see comparative numbers for adult served participants, EFL attainment, for your entire consortium, and you'll be able to do extracts for your entire consortium related to any metric in the pipeline, as well as doing basically a statewide data extract for any metric in the tab. So you'll be able to actually kind of compare yourself to other consortia or other institutions. Build 4, our target date for the production of Build 4 with the 2019-2020 data is currently March 1st. That coincides with the legislative mandate date for reporting to the legislature on the California Adult Education Program. We like to have that data available at the same time when they're supposed to be receiving the report from the state agencies, so they can do further exploration of the data related to CAEP. Finally, we're going to be doing a lot of professional development this year in 20 and 21. These are currently 4 things we have planned for the year: using Launchboard data for program improvement and planning. We did something like this 2 years ago. It was very popular, and we'd like to do something like that similar. Obviously, all of the PD is kind of provisional, not that we're not going to do it, but whether we'll have the opportunity to do in-person training the way we have, those kind of 5-hour sessions that are very hands-on, where you can actually work with people from your consortium. We're trying to figure out ways to deliver virtual versions of those. We're running a very large project with the California Governor's Office right now, running breakout rooms and things like that, running Zoom. And so we'll probably adapt that for these PD events. We're going to do something around non-credit code alignment. We want to work with non-credit institutions, actually pull your course codes and program codes to look at the way you're coding your students and programs to help you understand why some of the coding practices you may be using may be resulting in the data not looking the way you think it should in Launchboard. We're going to do something around CB21 and AB 705, leveraging the fact that the CB21 rubric for the community colleges is now aligned to the federal NRS EFLs. To actually help faculty, math, English, and ESL faculty design stronger transition strategies for students from adult education into post-secondary education, community college. And then we're going to do a round of PD around the state related to the new CTE data tool that we just developed, which I'll talk more about in a second. We also will be having some new metrics and data elements in the launch board this year. We'll have something out probably by the time we have the Directors Summit. Around what those are going to be, what the new elements are going to be for this year. Next. There are some data and coding issues that we're going to be working on this year. For those of you on the community college side, there are just some coding practices that are requiring us to change the way in which some metrics are calculated. And we're also working very closely with the Chancellor's Office on policy issues about how we should be directing colleges to code their courses. So one of which is that there are a lot of colleges who actually have created non-credit sections of supervised tutoring and study skills. Those are two top codes that actually show up as adult education students in the pipeline. And so we are going to eliminate that this year and be sure that those students are not counted as part of the denominator. These are overwhelmingly students who are credit students or regular community college students, and they're using non-credit as a way to help pay for and increase the amount of tutoring they're able to do. We have some issues related to colleges using top codes for basic education and secondary education to code their math and English non-credit courses. And those courses are then not assigned CB21 codes. We are working with the Chancellor's Office on policy related to this. Basically what it means is if you are coding your math and English courses this way at your non-credit institution, then we cannot actually count EFL attainment based on CB21 course progression. A student moving from, say, a course coded as CB21 equals C to CB21 equals B. There's been a big change in the last year around colleges being able to use census as the funding mechanism for non-credit courses, which means that colleges will no longer be reporting instructional contact hours into MIS. They actually can't. It bars you from doing that if you're using census. This will probably become an issue both for us in the launch board as well as CASAS. And so we're having discussions with the Chancellor's Office about what the policy should be about how we identify who's like a reportable individual as opposed to who's a participant. And we know that category of students between 1 and 11 instructional contact hours, which is a pretty sizable chunk of people, are students that we would like to be targeting to look at providing better services to help more of them actually persist and stay in adult education longer. We're looking at the incorporation of CASAS or CTE outcome survey data into the launch board this year. That's still exploratory, so we'll see how far we get with that. We're working on getting a high school equivalency or diploma award codes in MIS still. And then we're also interested in having discussions with CASAS around how we could integrate COAAPS and immigrant integration metrics into the launch board as well. And last but not least, a few weeks ago, we had a statewide webinar where we debuted the outcomes from the statewide mapping of adult education, CTE, and workforce preparation courses. We basically recorded data and information about every CTE or workforce prep course offered by a K-12 adult school or a non-credit institution in the state, and then pulled all of the program information for credit programs out of COAAPS. And then built a dashboard that basically allows you within each region to see the K-12 adult education CTE courses, community college non-credit courses, and community college credit awards, and then compare that to regional labor market data. This is designed not as an evaluation tool, it's really designed as a planning tool. What we want to do is make data available to the field to help you have those regional conversations about how do we build regional pathway systems that really maximize the ability of adult education students to make that transition to post-secondary education and ideally into living wage jobs. This tool allows you to slice and dice the data multiple ways. It's publicly available and we can share the link to it. But we will be doing probably multiple regional webinars and training sessions on this, as well as getting feedback from the field throughout the year. And that's it.
Thank you, Randy, for that presentation on what WSET is going to be working on for this upcoming program year. And so now we're going to go into the second part of this, and we're going to be talking about adult education reopening for 2020-21. And so those of you who had the opportunity to participate in our topics poll, here are the results. We sent out a poll with about 5 categories where we wanted to kind of prioritize what the importance would be for you all at your agencies. And so adult education for reopening was the top priority for everyone. And so now we want to know kind of where you are with your with your reopening plan. So I have another small poll that I'm going to be launching right now. And we're going to be asking 3 short questions. And the first one is, does your agency have a solid plan for reopening with distance learning for the fall? So we want to know of those of you who said that this was a top priority, do you now have a solid plan for reopening with distance learning? The second question is, has your adult education program been included in any K-12 device distributions? And then the third question is, are you prepared with professional development on strategies and resources for remote teaching and learning for the fall? So just another opportunity for us to collect a few more data points and to kind of incorporate these 3 factors into the rest of our network meeting this afternoon. So I'm seeing we have about 22% response at this time. So if you could just take just a couple minutes to complete this, and then once we are done, I'll launch the results so everyone can see where we are in terms of reopening and device distributions, as well as professional development. And so I'm seeing close to 40% participation at this time. If I can get more people to participate, that would be wonderful. I'll keep it open for about 15 more seconds or so. And thank you all for your engagement thus far. I've seen questions and answers take place in the chat, so that's great. I see someone saying, please send survey again. Are you talking about the survey that we are taking right now, Gary? Okay, I don't believe I can launch it again because it's open. Thank you, Penny, for helping Gary. So we have about 50% participation, so I'll keep it open for about 10 more seconds. All right, Gary, I hope you were able to access it with Penny's help, because I am going to close it soon. Okay, no worries, Gary. You can also type your responses in the chat if you'd like. That'll be helpful. And so the question is, does your agency have a solid plan for reopening with distance learning for the fall? Yes or no? Has your adult education program been included in any K-12 device distributions? Yes or no? And are you prepared with professional development on strategies and resources for remote teaching and learning for the fall? Yes or no? 3 questions. So I'm going to end the poll now so we can see the results. And so here are the results. So of a little bit more than 50% who completed the poll, 90% says that yes, you do have a solid plan for reopening, while 10% says no. And then in terms of device distribution, we have 27% who were included in device distribution, while 73% were not. And then in terms of preparation with professional development, 97% says yes, and 3% says no. So back to question 1, does your agency have a solid plan for reopening with distance learning for the fall? Majority of you said yes. So does anyone want to share with the rest of us what your adult education reopening plan for the year looks like? We are interested in kind of what you all have planned. There are at least 3 people who took the poll that says no, their agency doesn't. So the hope is that they can walk away with some ideas potentially that could be helpful in solidifying their adult education reopening plan. Do I have anyone in the audience who would like to unmute themselves? And Penny is posting in the chat, all only distance offering, a mix.
Hi there, this is Liz from Vista Adult School.
Hey Liz.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
We just started class, the fall session, this past Monday. So it's only 3 days, but it feels like 3 weeks, but that's okay. And what we did is we offered pure, it's either virtual learning or online learning. For Vista Adult School, virtual learning is that you have designated class days and times that you have to be at the computer. So it's a distance learning model where you have to be there, and it is the same as in a classroom. You have the teacher do, like 50% instruction, 25% of projects, and another 25% of student learning. So that is the virtual learning. And then we have a few medical classes that always have been online. And that is any online course where you have the whole week to submit your assignments. You don't have to be on at a certain time. It's really that freedom of just being online. So we started that on Monday, and it's, the teachers are really doing a good job in trying to keep their sense of humor going, trying to, keep patient and, just moving forward with our Canvas, and that's what we use for our CTE courses. So it's, we have headaches, we have some hiccups, but the students are doing really well. And in getting them, signed up, they were very excited when registering. And we did an online registration this time for medical. We usually do an assessment, but of course we weren't able to do that. So we really are giving the heads up for the instructors to kind of assess how the student is doing within that first 2 weeks. If they're struggling, refer them to a support team counselor, and let's see if, what we need to assist them in moving forward. So that is what we have started.
All right, thank you so much, Liz, for sharing, and definitely like to hear that your students are doing well in this virtual space, and that there's still enthusiasm to be in a class setting, although it looks different than what they were used to prior to the pandemic. So that's wonderful to hear, as well as the assessment. Although you can't do a formalized assessment, you're still assessing and referring them to services to support them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I see Penny is in the chat, and she is differentiating between virtual learning and online learning. So thank you so much, Penny, for that. And then Sue Donaldson says that they are doing all distance at Saddleback, and they are, we don't know which, they're using Canvas and Zoom. So yes, thank you so much. And I hear that Carla, thank you, Carla, you raised your hand. Definitely unmute yourself and go ahead and let us know what your reopening plan looks like.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are reopened, so we already started last week. And I'm the ESL director, so I can speak much more about my program. Each program is kind of doing things a little bit differently, but in general, we are primarily fully online. We do have some CTE courses where the hands-on demonstration or lab work is happening on site, but it's very limited, and staggered schedules and all of that. The only thing that we're doing on campus right now for ESL is we're trying out some the CASAS testing, and we had planned to have 12 to 16 students on site at the same time, socially distanced and everything, and we're only finding that about that number of students are coming per week instead of per session. And so we may kind of rethink that, whether or not it's worth it to us to keep going down that road. Everything else we're doing remotely. So we've been doing remote CASAS testing for ESL, and all of our courses are 100% distance education combination of synchronous and asynchronous activities. And we're in the process right now of getting our teachers trained. So I think, as most people know, we're in this emergency situation, and people could kind of do what they wanted, but now there's, they're having to very strictly follow the state guidelines for distance ed. And to date, we only have about 40% of the teachers in our program trained. So this is kind of my number one priority right now, is getting those teachers trained and certified so that they are able to do distance education. I will tell you, in looking at the numbers, I'm estimating off the top of my head, I don't have the exact numbers right in front of me, but I would estimate that we've probably lost close to half of our students. And what we're able to do more successfully is retain continuing students that we had in winter and spring and summer. But where we're seeing a huge decline is our new students, and especially at the beginning levels. We've been doing a laptop loan program, but again, we're seeing that that's it's successful if students know how to use a computer. But if students don't, the language literacy and the digital literacy skills are still an issue, even if we're able to solve the technology issue. So we're kind of grappling with all of that and trying to figure out how to best support students so that they can engage in their classes. Now, what we are finding is that when the students connect with the teacher, they are typically able to engage and participate. And again, this is for the ESL program. I think Adam might be in this meeting. I don't know if you want to speak about the DSS program, if you're at your computer. But for ESL, so I would say we're having success with the students that we are able to reach, and our teachers have just totally stepped up and jumped in, and our department was not prepared for this at all. And they're doing well under the circumstances, but we are missing a lot of students that we wish that we could serve. We're working on it.
Great.
Carla, I am here.
Okay, I'll turn it over
Hey,
to you.
everybody. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. So our DSS classes are doing well as far as the number of students who are participating in class. Our faculty are doing an amazing job fast forwarding their courses into the distance ed plan and utilizing Canvas and providing great instruction to students. They've come a long way. So fortunately, I would say we have over 90% of our DSS students, maybe even closer to 95%, have stuck with us and are attending classes. And the struggle, of course, is just fast forwarding and getting to kind of rock solid distance ed expectations and the regulations, and just making sure everything is up to par for good distance education. But they are well on their way, and our students have surprised us in the most wonderful way, being connected and participating. And so expect through the course of fall, it will only get better. And by spring, we should be, I think, really doing well.
Great. Thank you so much, Adam and Carla, for sharing what's going on at North Orange Continuing Education. And I believe I saw Pam's hand raised. Pam, did you still want to speak about what's going on in terms of reopening?
Sure. Ours are similar to Vista's, what Liz talked about, and a few of the other people have mentioned very similar things that we're doing. One thing we're going to do, though, that might be a little bit different, is a different idea to put out for folks, since we went immediately online when we were shut down and remote, using both Canvas and Zoom with the teachers, so they're pretty good with that. But one of the things that we learned was that our students' lives didn't necessarily fit into our normal footprint of, 9 to 12 or 6 to 9 in the evening. So our teachers, even though we're setting up our classes that way to start, our teachers are preparing to be really flexible. Once they get their student groups into class, they'll be breaking up the day and probably changing hours about when they actually teach a class. So they may have to do some afternoons, say, instead of mornings, or start even earlier and then come back later. So that's one of the things that we found, that we just want to try and serve our students the best we can and meet them wherever they're at. So that's our plan.
Great, thank you so much, Pam. Yes, in this this time of uncertainty, it's definitely important to meet students where they are so that they're able to continue on. I see another hand raised, I believe. Okay, Karima?
Yes, good afternoon. Hi, everyone. I'm Karima Feldes from Saddleback College, and we're part of SOCRC. And just to follow up on what Carla was describing, at Saddleback College, we also started a week ago. This is our second week of classes. We're 100% fully online, like Sue described in the chat. We spent part of the spring and summer to train all our faculty. Saddleback College has an online certificate, an online teaching educator certificate. So we signed up all our adult education faculty for that certificate. They took the summer to work on their modules, so it's better this fall with Canvas and Zoom. Of course, there are some glitches. Zoom was down this week nationally. Last week we had also Zoom glitches. We're now working on finalizing the spring schedule, and as the administrator overseeing the schedules, I am challenged in a way because we have a couple of weeks to finalize the schedule. It's fully online, meaning asynchronous, yet from experience, our students want the synchronous Zoom meetings. Because the classes are fully asynchronous and it's up to the instructor to schedule those Zoom meetings, we put the faculty may schedule optional Zoom meetings, maybe Monday from this time to this time. We put it very loose, permissive language in the comment line, but faculty are not obligated by contract. We have the same contract for credit and non-credit faculty. As long as they use Canvas and they engage students, they're not obligated to have those face-to-face Zoom meetings. And like Carla mentioned, it's very hard for our beginning students who are already challenged, I think Carla or someone else, they're challenged by the technology and by the language, so they're not doing well in those lower levels. So I would be interested in hearing what others have to say now that we're learning from our challenges this summer, and now the fall that we started it. Now we're thinking of spring, and Saddleback College already made the determination that we're going to be online, at least for the majority of our classes. The question is, do we continue the current practice, which is fully online, asynchronous, and it's up to the faculty to meet with their students using Zoom meetings or not? But Saddleback came up with the process. Now we have 4 options for faculty, all faculty, credit and non-credit. Option 1, fully online. And option 2, it's a mixture where we actually put the days and times instead of TBA for online classes. We'll put exact days and times where they actually meet synchronously using Zoom. That, of course, is less flexible. It provides faculty and students with a less flexible schedule, but we are now rethinking this fully synchronous, especially for our lower levels. So we haven't made a decision yet regarding spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Karima. And I believe you posed the question, right? You wanted to know about your final
Yes,
thoughts.
yes.
Okay. Does anyone have an answer for Karima or any input, any ideas? Okay, I see Sue raised your hand. And
Oh, thank you. Hi, yes, Sue Donaldson. I work with Karima at Saddleback College. I also wanted to add that during this unique time, we're also rolling out SB 554, which is dual enrollment for students in our high school equivalency program, have the opportunity to earn up to 11 free units each semester while they're in our program. So we're really looking at making things user-friendly virtually. We've added orientations to help the students understand what their offerings are and all the wonderful opportunity coming from SB 554. And we're also rolling out new curriculum that's very well attended, ESL in the workplace. So our high school equivalency numbers aren't bad at all. The program's growing. We're at about 3/4 of our enrollment that we were this time last semester and the semester before. Our ESL took the biggest hit, but one of the things that we've really worked on, and I saw somebody else doing this too, is our front office staff have now turned into IT support. So there's, just as Karima said, the synchronous model's working best for our students. And there's a real buzz right before class starts because they still need help maneuvering Canvas and ConferZoom and all that. So our staff are just on standby to help those get into the classes.
thank you so much for Sue for adding to what you all are doing at Saddleback. Definitely appreciate those input, and thank you to everyone who have given us all updates on how you are reopening for 2020-21, and then some of the challenges and successes that you are experiencing at this time. We will move forward with today's regional network meeting and go into technology and distance learning with OTAN. However, if there is more conversation regarding reopening, or if anyone has any input for Karima for the question she had posed, please feel free to type it in the chat, or we'll have more time for discussion as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Penny, I believe, who will get us started with technology and distance learning. Penny?
Thank you, Veronica, very much, and welcome everyone. And I'm glad you were able to join us today. And I'm always interested in that question about how folks are getting restarted and what they're doing for the fall. So I'm going to leap forward here and come back, if it's all right with Veronica, because I wanted you to see what the survey results were for technology and distance learning. So Veronica, if you could go to the next slide, because I want to speak directly to these most important things that the field has said here. And you can see previously on the previous slide, technology and distance learning ranks very high or ranks second. And then when you go to the next slide, it breaks this down a little bit more. And this is what I want to speak to in just a moment about things about digital literacy courses, concerns about access and equity and inclusion, finding curriculum, looking for assessments, both formative and for EL civics. So I want to go, and if Veronica will allow, to share my screen and show you the resources that OTAN has available for you, because I think that they can be very useful to answer these questions and get you started with more of how do you go forth into this new technology and distance learning world. So this is the OTAN website. And before I forget, because I do have a colleague here that I'm going to be turning this over to in just a moment, Netta Anasari. She's a co-coordinator with me for technology projects. And I'm going to have her post into the chat the OTAN website address. Most of you probably know this. Sometimes I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I want to make sure everybody knows what we have available here. And on the OTAN homepage, we provide technical support to adult schools across the state to help them with technology integration. And with the advent of the pandemic, we have a COVID-19 field support page. And this is meant to provide you with a great one-stop shop, just like CAEP has on their website, so you can get to information quickly about what's going on. So we have partners with CalPro and CASAS and adult education, so they can tell you more about, things like for remote testing, looking at the memos from the CD Adult Ed office. And of course we have CAEP listed here. And at the bottom, we have some resources that we've provided for our agencies and our learners, quite frankly, about where they can find free and low cost internet devices. That has been a big barrier. And it is something that I don't think is going away real quickly. And then down at the bottom here for our students, we have some information to tell them that it's still very important to be a part of the census. We give them some information from USCIS, citizenship on the coronavirus. And then also, unfortunately, there have been some scams. And so the Federal Trade Commission has given some information to help learners understand what might be going on out there. Some of the national and international sites, as well as some of our statewide partners, are also down here at the bottom. So this page is a great place to kind of get started. And I'm going to go pop up to the top of the page because some of those areas that you spoke specifically about getting started with going the distance, of doing distance education, we have some resources here that I want to show you. And nobody mentioned it in this group, but I don't want folks to forget about mobile phones. We have data that show that most of our learners have mobile phones. And sometimes teachers don't incorporate this tool. So we have this information that was provided to us generously from West Contra Costa Adult Ed, and they have provided this nice little packet about remote learning via students' phones. And you can see here they've got about individual and group texting options, some ideas for mobile-based learning. And as I scroll through this page, you'll see on the left-hand side here this table of contents about creating assignments, creating worksheets, and it goes on and on. So this is a great resource, especially if you have teachers that are very interested and proactive with using mobile phones. A second resource that came from the field, I always like to be able to say that, our teachers are the best in California, is the Appmazing Volunteers. This was led by one of our Digital Leadership Academy teams from Corona Norco. They created these menus for I Can Go the Distance. And they've done such a nice job of being able to provide, this is a way to look at this as kind of a step-by-step menu for different programs. So as it starts off here, it's just an explanation of what this is. And as I move through these pages, you have a menu for each program area. In the upper left-hand corner here, you'll see this is for ESL. And they have the starters or the appetizers about ways you can communicate with your learners. So they talk about Remind and WhatsApp and WeChat. And then they have first course about, scheduling meetings and working with your learners in a synchronous environment. A second course on using other tools, and then desserts about ways that you can get your learners more engaged. Now that's for just ESL. They have created these menus for citizenship, also for adult basic education, and also for high school equivalency. So each one of these can be a nice little kind of one page, one shot. How can I work with my learners at a distance? So again, going back to this field support page, there are other links here. We have a partner with World Ed. They have this great publication called Ready, Set, Go, Steps to Rapidly Start Distance Instruction. Many of you have already said you've already started, but this may be a nice tool to look at. What are some of the steps you can do? So I'll just scroll through the first couple of pages. So first is saying, make a communications plan. That's really important. Make a list of your program's technology resources. I know many of our schools had challenges with not only their learners not having access to hardware devices, but they didn't have the ability to be able to loan them out either if they did have them. So these are just steps. Help your learners access free or reduced cost internet and data plans. There's a list here from the National Data Inclusion Alliance that gives this list of continuous offers available from different vendors. So this is just another tool. So the other one, oh, I see my colleague is already on top of it, is one of our favorite tools, which is the Ideal Consortium Distance Education and Blended Learning Handbook. The link is there. I won't open it, just so this is another kind of step-by-step, more in-depth guide to help you build and identify perhaps areas in your distance learning program that could use a little help. So the other area here, and this goes to some of those other concerns that were listed, was our previous OTAN webinars. OTAN did approximately 100 webinars between the shelter-in-place order on March 17th to the end of June. Now, I'm not going to scroll through this whole page because one of our specialist, our project specialist, Anthony Burek in our office, created this wonderful webinar index table, or webinar table index. And if you select that link, he's divided and curated all of our webinars by tools and or topic. So you'll see that we have some on assessment, we have some for ABE, we have some on cell phones and citizenship. Here's many resources on digital literacy. Here are some sessions that were done on equity. So we're getting to all of those concerns that were actually in that slide in terms of what you asked for. Now, this is all what OTAN has done in the aftermath of COVID, but that's not all we have. And I'm going to let my colleague Netta Anasari talk about some other tools that we do all the time that might help with technology integration. So Netta, do you want me to keep sharing or do you want to share?
Actually, if you can keep sharing, that would be great. Hi, everyone.
Absolutely.
I just want to remind everybody about a couple of resources that could be helpful when you're looking at building some of your courses via distance. And so if Penny can go to the resources page, that would be great. And then actually click on our curriculum offers section. And I want to just bring to your attention that we have several resources here for students and for teachers. I'll highlight the CK12 piece. All of these resources are great resources, and I'm sure there are many more that we can probably fill this page with. CK12 is an open educational resource, and what I found with CK12 is it really addresses the needs of our ASC learners, and there are several options as well to address the needs of our HSC learners. There is a collaborative tool that has pieces for GED students, and a lot of that can be transferred to HiSET. And we're working on building a kind of a section or a library piece for adult education students specifically through CK12. So we're working with them in collaboration. Under the For Teachers section, I'll highlight the ISTE SkillRise initiative. And the ISTE SkillRise offers a course to build capacity and leverage educational technology pieces. So if you're interested in possibly forming a team at your agency, they're looking at 2 teachers and an administrator to take this course through ISTE. ISTE is a large organization that addresses education technology, and we all know and love our ISTE standards. Well, this is the SkillRise initiative through ISTE is targeted for adult learners, and so I encourage you to visit that page and learn more about the ISTE SkillRise. So with that, I'm going to ask Penny to go into the Teaching with Technology tool. Teaching Technology tool is built by phenomenal educators throughout our state. Many of our subject matter experts have worked on providing information and or resources, supplemental resources, so that you can embed and use in your distance learning courses. So if Penny would open up maybe ESL, or perfect, and then open up one of those resources for me. It doesn't matter which one. Okay. And so you can see here that it goes through an activity description, how to implement, how to prepare for it, and so on. And so other components that are being added to this page is how to incorporate it in more of an online instruction, and also we are updating the standards that we align to more of the college and career readiness standards, and the engagement tools also through ISTE. So I will hand it back over to Penny. Oh, you know what I do want to remind everybody, actually, if you can go to the main page, Penny, that would be great, and scroll all the way down to where it shows our social media platforms. And I want to strongly encourage everybody to follow us on most of the social media platforms that we're on. So if you're using Twitter, please follow us on Twitter. We, our staff in the office do a phenomenal job making sure that you are getting the information to register for webinars and utilize any of the resources and tools that we're sending through for all of our educators to access. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and then you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Penny.
I think we've covered our goodies here. I know that we have additional survey results that Veronica will want to go over, so I'll stop my share, Veronica, if you want to bring up your PowerPoint. And hopefully that a few of these resources will speak to you as you look at some of those survey results for technology and distance learning, as well as for you know, kind of those the subtopics that were mentioned here. So back to you, Veronica.
Thank you, Penny, and thank you, Netta. The next part of our meeting today, we're going to be talking about student support services. So in that topics poll, which my apologies, I did share them. I meant to share them at the beginning of the meeting, but it slipped my mind. But you have the results of the topics poll as well as today's PowerPoint presentation. And I saw that Penny said that the links are live when you go into presenter mode. So just keep that in mind as you are trying to access the links that are embedded into the PowerPoint presentation. But student support services, so this was ranked number 3 out of our 5 areas of importance. And so some of the subtopics that came out of this topics poll were employment as a top subtopic, as well as counseling and transition services and mental health support. And so I want to hear from some people about how you all are addressing your student support services in the virtual environment, especially as it relates to employment, counseling and transition services, and mental health support. Does anyone want to share what they are doing to support their students around student support services? Sue, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. Hi there. You know, one of the things that we're doing is really trying to promote our counseling services. We recognize that the students probably need the counselors more than ever now. When we were face-to-face, the counselors would walk on campus and introduce themselves, build rapport. So now what we're doing is we're inviting them into the classrooms virtually, embedded counseling to do a quick presentation or even a very specific topic on a workshop, so that that students can really get to know them and feel comfortable. I think there's some cultural barriers to seeing a counselor, but the counselors, historically, these particular counselors have focused on academic trajectory. However, their scope of work is expanded to really address housing, food insecurities, and the whole gamut. So we're super excited about our counseling team, and we're just looking for additional ways. We also are planning, the counselors are planning workshops and posting those, so that, again, it's something tangible, you know, on employment and job applications. So it's not just this term of counseling, but rather something very specific. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, our front office staff have really turned into the student support team with IT requests and admissions and records, helping them access and apply and enroll into the class. It's taken quite a bit of time, but they're helping them. They're using Google phones, soft phones, and so they're able to share screens and text them and such. So we've maintained the staff, and they've some of them have switched their scope of work from being in a computer lab to joining a faculty member and helping those students maneuver their technology inside the course, the virtual course.
Great. Thank you so much, Sue, for sharing what you all are doing to support your students more than just from, you said, an academic trajectory, but meeting all of those different areas that students are in need of at this time.
This is Adam from North Orange. I can share about some of our student services.
Go right ahead.
Again, I'm Disability Support Services, and we continue to provide all of our disability support services counseling to our students, which is very extensive. Just moved online, and it's been going really well. We've continued to do our job development under our workability program, our college to career program, and our CAEP funded job development. We've also continued to do our bus mobility skills training program online. As surprising as it may sound, it's been quite successful, helping students learn to ride the bus. We continue to provide educational coaching to students taking inclusive classes. And our Arise lab, which we now call our Arise Hub, which has been partially supported by CAEP funding, has really turned into an educational support and wellness hub since we've been online. And they just continue, the original intention was to serve students with autism so that they could transition to post-secondary education, persist and succeed better. But it's really gone beyond that now, and the Arise Hub is really providing a lot of extensive support to students to help them get into their DSS classes or into inclusive classes, to stay connected, providing support to faculty and other instructional staff who are supporting students. It's turned into a wellness hub where students feel safe going to the hub, either one-on-one or in small groups, to either get instructional support or just to talk about what's going on in these days of COVID and some of the emotional things they're going through, and to get support. So it's really, it's been such a blessing to see the Rise Lab evolve into a much broader scope that is really serving our students effectively in this online environment. And I don't know if Deb Perkins is on the line or not, but I know that our general counseling has continued online as well, and they're doing a great job.
Thank you, Adam, so much for sharing. It sounds very exciting, the work that you're doing with you said Arise Hub?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. Now for that particular program, are you leveraging like any partnerships, or is it just within your program that's putting together those services?
The Rise Hub leverages, as far as funding resources, leverages resources from CAEP, from our general fund for the college institution, some of our DSS funds. And then we have actually a lot of partnerships with outside agencies such as Regional Center Department of Rehabilitation. So we've kind of leveraged in a lot of different directions to continue all of our student services.
Great, thank you so much.
Orange County Transportation Authority is another one that we leverage with.
Okay, great. Yes, definitely. Partnerships are key in this certain time. Be able to access more resources for your learners at this time. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else would like to share how they are supporting their students during this time in any of the areas? And even if the areas aren't necessarily listed here, definitely feel free to let us know, how you are supporting your students at this time.
Hi, Veronica. This is Jenith.
Oh, go ahead, Jenith.
Hi, Jenith.
Hi. I think I want to thank my colleagues for really highlighting their great work that they're doing at the North Orange County Regional Consortium. But I also want to have the opportunity to highlight in terms of student support from our other members. You know, we definitely have from NOCE, where we set up a student laptop loan program, and where we actually leverage, again, the various source of funding to be able to, you know, couple those and set up those services for those students that in need, as we transition to more of an online virtual world in education. And then we have also hotspots and some of our institutions where our students can actually, or adult learners can go and, you know, should they need an opportunity for internet access, that's available to them. In addition, we set up, you know, a food bank that is available through NOCE. I know that some of our K through 12 district members have also set up their own food bank through some of our CAEP strategies, as well as ROP. I know that the North Orange County Regional Occupational Program Center also set up an online service for their adult, well, our adult learners in this case, and they're providing online counseling and online support for workforce preparation and training. And so it's just been a collective effort and just really coming together to maximize each other's resources and funding to be able to provide not a duplicate effort, but just to make sure that we can support in all these areas and challenges at this point for our students.
Thank you, Janet. Yes, it's always nice to hear the consortium working together, like you said, to not duplicate services, but to come together and provide that well-rounded approach for the for our learners. So thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else would like to share how you are supporting your students during this time? Any barriers you're experiencing to providing these student support services? Go over to the chat, see if there's anything going on there. I'm not seeing anything. I did see Anthony posted OTAN's resource guide. So thank you, Anthony, for posting that. Okay, anything else anyone wants to talk about? Any questions you have for any of the partner agencies? We still have OTAN, CASAS, and WestEd on the line. Any questions you would like to ask them? Any guidance you are seeking? We have about 5 more minutes left today for the regional network meeting. Okay, so while we're awaiting anyone to have any last minute questions or even last minute thoughts, I definitely wanted to let everyone know that the CAEP Summit 2020 will take place on October 26th through October 29th of this year, and it will be online, and we're hoping to open registration relatively soon. However, the call for proposals is still open, and you do still have time to submit a proposal. So if there are some of the things that we discussed and some of the kind of creative ways and strategies you all are going about continuing your programs during this time, if there's something that you would like to share with the entire state, definitely feel free to submit a proposal, and I'll go ahead and type the chat the URL of exactly where you can access the site to submit your call for proposal or your proposal. We are looking forward to having a great conference experience, because we too had to, of course, pivot to the virtual world to host this conference, but it's going to be successful, and it's going to be a great opportunity for us to come together and again, connect with one another, share strategies and resources, and collaborate with one another. So I see KB has a question. Any suggestions on retention of students that may have lost hope with remote teaching? Anyone available to address KB, and any suggestions you are able to offer regarding retention? Definitely feel free to just unmute yourself and let us know if you have any suggestions, any ideas.
I have no ideas.
Well, thank you for coming on.
But I just want to commiserate with everybody. You know, this is just really difficult to navigate, and I think what we're seeing is the inequity. You know, to me, one of the things I hope will come out of this whole COVID experience is that internet will be seen as a utility and not a luxury. But you can just see how necessary it is. But again, it's not just having the access, it's the skill set to be able to participate. And to me, that's what I think there's a combination of students who are fearful of technology and students who just don't have the digital literacy skills. And I honestly don't know what the answer is. I'm struggling with it too. So if anybody does have the answer, please share it with us, because we all need it. This is what weighs the heaviest on me, is these students that we're losing. And you know, teachers are doing a great job. They're doing their best, but none of us were really genuinely prepared for this, I don't think. Yeah, and how do you, somebody just posted in the chat, how do you teach digital literacy remotely when the issue is digital literacy? If anyone has the answer to that, please speak up. Because I don't.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Carla. And I think Karima is coming online.
Hi, I just unmute and freeze myself. A question to everyone else regarding hotspots. And I feel, by the way, the same way we feel, our team and we feel the same way about our students. Sometimes we feel helpless. How do we get them even internet or hotspots? And I heard someone saying you're giving out hotspots, and I'm curious to know how you did that. How did you distribute hotspots to the students?
Hi, this is Kenya with Sweetwater District. I could respond to the hotspot question.
Okay, go ahead.
In our 7 through 12 district, we designated hubs throughout the South Bay County, and also businesses that have large parking lots. So that's how we kind of determine our hotspots. And so the adults come onto the campus during the times of their classes, and we have 2 campus security, not really security guards, but campus assistants that man each of those sites. And we did it through our IT department and Cox Cable.
Thank you for that, Kenya.
Thank you, Kenya.
All right, and I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, and we're at time. We're at 2:30, so this is our ending time, but thank you all so much for your participation in today's meeting. I see Denise has come on mute. Denise, did you want to say anything?
Oh, nope. I just accidentally did that. Great meeting.
Oh, okay, no worries. But thank you all very much for your time and your participation in today's meeting. As I mentioned before, it has been recorded and will be available on the California Adult Education website. And I'm going to post the URL of exactly where it will be. So if you need to access this page or this recording for whatever reason, or you would like to share it with others, definitely feel free to do so. I'm gathering the link now, and then all of the other links are posted there as well, so you'll have access to them.
I actually do have a question now.
Okay.
The lending of the devices, are those existing devices, or are people purchasing additional devices if there's a need?
Saddleback College was able to purchase Chromebooks with the COVID funds.
Okay.
Initially was paid through CAEP and then reimbursed through COVID. And that's been really helpful. We'll distribute those along with using some WIOA funds to distribute books as well.
Okay. Is anyone using CAEP funding? Is that allowable?
Sorry, just to, because we asked, this is Kelly from San Diego Continuing Ed. We had asked that specific question, and I believe it's allowable to use CAEP funds, but only for loaners.
Yes,
You
yeah,
have to have a loan policy.
not to give out and.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Yes, that is true. It is allowable under CEP as long as you have that loan agreement in place and it is returned.
And I believe there's a sample somewhere of that loan agreement, yes?
Yes, it is. It's on the CAEP website under our COVID-19 page.
Fabulous.
And that's on the home page as well. So you'll see it in the trending now. And if you click on that link, and under student support services are the examples.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, well, thank you all very much for your time and your participation. I definitely appreciate it. Everyone appreciates it. And we hope to see you all soon, and definitely continue to check out the CAEP website. The newsletter is where we post a lot of our updates and our webinars, etc. And be on the lookout for registration to open for the summit. And like I said, if you in your agency would like to submit a call for proposal, definitely feel free to do so. And I posted the link in the chat. So have a great afternoon, everyone.